What is up, everybody? Today is a pretty random day. I got a call from my buddy that he's getting rid of a half pipe, and I was like, sure, I'll take it. So I got that in my front yard now. Thinking we're gonna build some wood lips today. The half pipe was like a 4-foot tiny little mini ramp. There's like 4 sections to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I'm just gonna take this all apart, recut a radius, and probably use like 2 quarters to make 1 full kicker. So got this here. Let's get to work. So first quarter is disassembled. I'm gonna do the other 3. Probably not gonna film it just because it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. And yeah, just gonna do that real quick. Alrighty, so here we are a week later. I kind of got busy this week, so I stopped construction on this, guy. The whole half pipe is taken apart now. So what I've done here is laid out all of the quarter pipe sides. Basically, I picked the best ones out of the 8 there were. These 4 turned out to be the most clean with like the least amount of rotting. So I'm gonna be working with these pieces of ply. So I roughly have laid out my radius sketcher. Basically what I've taken is 2 2x4s that are around like 8 feet each. I think they're like 7.5 or something like that. I'm gonna be doing a 12-foot radius for this 7-foot ramp. The way you calculate a radius usually is you take the height that you want and you double it and then -1. And I want it a little bit steeper than that, so I'm gonna -2. So 7 feet times 2 is 14, -2 is 12. So I'm gonna go with the 12-foot radius to get the angle of this ramp. So I have the tape measure there. We're gonna run all the way down to 12 feet right there and mark it on our radius drawer. All right, so now that we have that radius line, 12 feet from where the drawing is gonna be happening, I'm gonna screw in 1 screw into a piece of 2x4 over there and use it as my pivot point and pivot right from here. Some of you may be confused because I'm not using full pieces of ply. I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm trying to do here. So these were 3.5-foot quarters. And what I'm gonna be doing is taking this and drawing a new radius on the outside of this curve and basically extending it through this pieces of ply and all the way up to 7 foot. So since these are 3.5, 3.5, it's gonna work out perfect because the height is 7 foot that we're going for. Most likely, if you're gonna be doing this, you're gonna be using full pieces of plywood, and in that case, it would just look different because you'd have 2 rectangles you'd be doing the same thing for. On the other hand, I'm gonna be recycling this piece of wood just because I got it for free. So it might be a little confusing that I'm using already pre-cut quarters, but just bear with me. Alrighty, so put a screw in at the pivot point, put some weights on so it doesn't move, and the radius line is all lined up. So I'm just gonna drag this along the whole quarter and we'll get a radius. So I had to actually change the way I was gonna draw this. I am laying them out in this direction instead so that they line up at a decent angle and I can get like a foot where like they attach. So gonna redraw this really quick, so yeah. So to make the back part of the ramp, the radius, I basically extended to 13. Let me show you. Drilled it into 13 and I couldn't get it to line up where I wanted to, so instead I just like started the radius at the point where I wanted the piece of wood to meet, and then I kind of drew that way and drew this way. So that's how I got the backside radius. So now I have the other 2 pieces laid out and I'm gonna draw the radius really quick. Alrighty, so we have these boards laid out and are ready to cut. A thing I want to point out though, it makes it easier. The wood is, I want to say, 3/4 of an inch thick. And so I like to set my blade to roughly around the same. 3/4 inch thick. Can you see that? So that way when you're cutting the wood, you won't cut through the wood that it's laying on top of. Just like something super simple that I didn't realize you could do back in the day when I was a kid building stuff. So now we need to connect the two radiuses by taking the extra piece of ply and tracing them with the radius. And then as you can see here, I'm cutting them and I'm going to use them to connect them. So the goal is to have a 7-foot ramp, and currently right now I think the way I cut it, it's at like 9 feet, but we still have the right radius. I need to cut it at 7 foot because that's what I want it to be at. So I lined up this 2x4, which is aligned with right here, the bottom of the ramp, and made a right angle at the bottom and measured from there to 7 foot. And we got the straight angle right there, and we're just gonna make a Sharpie line, draw it, and then cut it on both pieces. So I just cut the 7-foot posts for each side, and then I have those two 8-footers that are going to be the X for support in between these two posts, and then these two, I think this one's a 10-footer, that one's like an 8-footer. Those are going to be for the sides to connect the bottom of the ramp to the posts. And right here we have the 2x4s for the support braces that are going to be going across all the way up the ramp. Those I pulled from the quarter pipes, and they're already pre-cut, but I'll show you guys what the length is. So depending on how thick the wood is for your transition, mine is 3/4 inch. And so if you double that, it equals 1.5 inches. And so a normal piece of ply is 4 foot wide by 8 foot. And so by adding the 3/4 ply on each side of the 2x4, it makes up for 1.5 inches. So that's something to keep in mind when you're putting it all together. These need to be cut around 46.5 inches because you're using the extra set of ply on the ends. And if you don't cut them like this and you just cut them at 4 feet, you're gonna have the piece of ply on the outside that's not gonna be covered fully by the sheeted ply. So definitely keep that one in mind. So here we are, basically I have everything set up how it's gonna go. I have the two transitions, X for the support, got the two posts and the connections for the two posts to the bottom. And then easy enough, since I already had these pre-cut, I just sorted through and picked out the best ones, and I think I got more than plenty. Next step is to paint this guy. Just picked up 2 sheets of ply, 50 bucks a pop, which is insane. 100 bucks for 2 pieces, but we got them. We're gonna paint them and assemble the ramp. It's kind of also, I'm supposed to be moving the ramp to a different location, so it's giving me a little bit of a perspective on how much it's gonna weigh with how heavy plywood is. But yeah, got the wood, gonna paint it, gonna build it, getting her done. So the way that the ramp originally had the supports was every 8.5 inches. I think I'm gonna continue that 8.5 slats or supports, whatever they're called. Do them every 8.5 inches all the way to the top. And so for the connectors right here and here, I'm gonna be using a double-sided 2x4. So I took my 2 8-footers and screwed it into the back there, and then I'm gonna be attaching down here. I had to just shove 2 2x4s underneath to level it all out, but I think we're good to go. I made sure that these ends were at right angles, both of them, and then screwed them into the bottom. And then after I did that, I did the inside bracing right here, screwed the bottom in with just 1 bolt, and then used a leveling stick, plopped her up right next to it, make sure it's level, screw in that top one, and then the same for the other side. And if you look at this, she is sturdy, and that's what you want. So I managed to put all the supports in and she's good to go on the front side. But a common issue with building a ramp like this with the cutouts on the side, you get this wobble back and forth. And so to stop that, we're gonna be putting this support from there to there, and then it'll strengthen it up. And we're gonna do the same on this side, just like that. And lastly, I threw in this little like cross piece, and now we are solid. Now all that's left is throw some plywood on this guy and she'll be good to go. So putting on this first piece of ply, I basically have this double piece here that connects these two pieces of wood together. Great, here you can see the split. Basically, I'm gonna be matching this piece of plywood up to this 2x4, and then so the second one will just sit right there and lay up to the top. It is a little bit short, but I have flat bottom basically to that first 2x4 there, so I don't think it really will affect me. I might just be cutting it a little bit on that flat bottom as the transition starts. So for me, it works out. I kind of would recommend probably starting from the bottom and working your way up. Also for screws, I'm going to be using 4, probably 2 on the outside, 2 in the middle, and work my way down. I also don't have a chalk line, or at least I used to. Don't know where it is, so I'm just going to use Scotch tape to find out where the 2x4s are and just kind of like line it up with the screws that are there on each side to get a straight line, and then that's how I'm going to find the 2x4s. Alrighty, so first sheet is on, and I'm gonna measure the top part and cut that piece of plywood to match up with the top. I kind of just did it, but I'll redo it with you. Alrighty, so we are at, let's see, 55 inches. I just measured the other side, so both are the same. Gonna cut that guy to 55 inches and layer on top. Something to kind of look for, if it's flush here and it hangs over up there, or vice versa, it's like flush here and it's like too far over like it is on the other side. I loosened up the side-to-side supports so that the top can move, and I'm going to tighten it up with this so that everything is flush, and then going to be tightening back up the side-to-side supports. Alrighty, so I just made 2 little cuts. I just put a foot extension on the bottom here because, as you guys saw before, it was sticking out, and that'll be good too because that piece generally rots a bunch on ramps in the past that I've dealt with, so it'll be an easy piece to kind of replace, 4 feet by 1 foot. And I also cut a piece for the very top, a little 9.5 incher, and yeah, just gonna screw it together and show you guys the final product. And there she is, the finished product. Got that little piece screwed in. All the supports on the side are all screwed in. Even got the top little piece of ply. She is solid. Hope this video helps you guys build your next ramp. I definitely struggled to find videos that explain radiuses and everything like that. So hope this video is helpful for you guys, and get a sick kicker.